And for those of you who need to know, this story is purposely anachronistic. This story is about the land. It's about a place. How many of you have been to Gastown? Okay. This story starts on March morning of last year. For a class that I had about memory, our professor asked us to meet at 157 Alexander Street. We were to walk in pairs and participate in something called a pod play. We downloaded the pod play to our phones, and the pod play was called Ashes on the Water. I've never been here at 157 Alexander before, though I live a few minutes away. 157 Alexander is a bit of a hipster bar, but there's a plaque that marks this historical site as St. James Anglican Church. As my pod play partner and I read the plaque, the pod play tells us that it is Sunday, June 13th, 1886, and a woman and her baby exited the church because her baby girl was crying. The woman telling the story says we are standing on what was called Old Hastings Road. So Alexander Street wasn't there, and it was called Old Hastings Road. She describes the smoky air, and we hear in the background the noises of carriages and horses. She tells us about the growth of the Canadian Pacific Railway. And it's at this time that I have a vision. Time keeps moving forward, and I continue to listen to the pod play, but I'm having a spiritual experience. I think about those who built that railway. I remember the Chinese immigrants who have arrived here, who may have arrived here as early as 1858, and the more than 15,000 Chinese laborers who were recruited between 1881 and 1885 for the construction of the Canadian Pacific Railway. I remember that the moment the railway was done, anti-Chinese legislation arose in 1885 called the Chinese Immigration Act, requiring Chinese immigrants to pay a head tax to come to Canada. I come back to the pod play as the narrator talks about the new buildings going up and the clearing of land. She directs us to walk towards Main Street. But before my partner and I can be transported to 1886, I look to my right and I have another vision. This time I see a vibrant neighborhood called Japantown. And this neighborhood was being struck by rioting white looters in September of 1907. These whites marched through Chinese and Japanese neighborhoods, breaking windows and assaulting local residents. I see law after law being passed to restrict movement, home ownership, and business ownership. I see during World War II, all local residents of Japantown being forcibly moved to internment camps in BC's interior. And after that split-second vision, I follow the instructions of the pod play, and I'm transported to that fateful day in 1886. Just as the smoke and heat of the fire forced the woman carrying her baby to run towards Burrard Inlet, she describes the sounds of the flames and the confusion of voices shouting. The church where we started is in flames. We're directed to stop in Crab Park and look north, because across the inlet is a mission reserve on the north shore. But before I look north, I see the memorial stone for the downtown East Side's missing and murdered Indigenous women. The stone reads, "The heart has its own memory," in honor of the spirit of the people murdered in the downtown East Side. Many were women, and many were Native Aboriginal women. Many of these cases remain unsolved, all of my relations. Dedicated July 29th, 1997. I look north as the pod play introduces the mission reserve. I know the people who lived in Oxalon were people from many Indigenous villages in Vancouver, as well as people from Seasholt, from Musqueam, from Squamish, and elsewhere. I also have been told that St. Paul's residential school operated there from 18 1899 to 1858. But on June 13th, 1886, the people of the Mission Reserve could see the smoke and fire engulfing the land that once had trees, where they had had ceremonies, where they had raised their children and talked with their ancestors. The Indigenous woman who is now narrating says, it was the women who wanted to go. The men wanted to let them burn so that we could be finished with those people who take everything they want, forbid the potlatch, bring disease, and treat us poorly, destroying our homes. As my partner and I walk on the shore, I turn towards the port of Vancouver, and again I'm transported to another time, in 1914, when a ship called Kamagatu Maru was rejected by the port. 376 Sikhs and others from India were not allowed to land at the port of Vancouver. The newspapers from that time, and I hear in the background the cheers of the whites standing on the shoreline as the ship was sent back on a grim journey to India. I turn back to the Mission Reserve as the cold water hits my snow boots, and I wonder at the people who got in their canoes on June 13th, 1886. They made a 25-minute journey to rescue people escaping the Great Vancouver Fire. Where did that sense of mercy come from? I'm struck by the enormous generosity. I wonder if they would feel the same way after I tell them this story. Would they feel the same way? Would they feel the same sense of love, of justice, of grace, of mercy? I wonder. The pod play ends with a new sense of camaraderie, because a new sense of camaraderie is fostered as the woman running from the flames passes her baby to the woman in the canoe. And as the woman in the water joins the woman in the canoe, together they sing to the baby. As I told the story of Main Street and Alexander Street, what struck you about what I told you? For the next 5 to 7 minutes or so, I want you to get in groups of 4 or 5 and talk about what you know about Main Street and Alexander Street. Maybe you know more about the port of Vancouver, or Japantown, or the railway. Maybe you don't know more than what I shared. Spend some time researching and learning more about any of the history